Set. Places, everybody. And action.
It's time once again for the Hooked on Movies podcast. Today, we will be reviewing one of the greats. We just lost him, Mr. Gene Hackman, at 95 years old, and we're going to be looking at one of his, dare I say, spectacular movies from 1988, Mississippi Burning. With me are Ken.
Hey, Ted, do you know how much you bleed when someone cuts off your balls?
Probably a lot.
And Ted.
Eric, it looks like a political meeting, but it smells more like a Klan to me, with or without the Halloween costumes.
I like the accent. Hey, Ken, what's got four eyes and can't see?
I don't know. What, Eric?
Was this laughing? Mississippi. Yeah. I say. It's all right. Mississippi. Isn't that a great? I think I learned that one in high school too, or junior high. Something with potatoes too.
Yeah, it was second or third grade for me because growing up right on the river.
All right. Well, we want to thank everyone for listening. You can obviously listen to us on many, many, many avenues. Facebook, the Dorkening Network, Twitter, X, Apple, Good Tunes, Good Pods, whatever the hell it is. We're out there. Just type us in the search engine. You'll find. Yeah, Podbean. Yeah, you know. If you're listening, you found us. Tell your friends, your neighbors, everyone. We're here.
Shout it from the rooftops.
Shout it from the rooftops.
Go tell it on the mountain.
That's right. So, let us talk about the first time we saw this movie. Ken. Cable, right? Cable!
No, you don't say.
Yes, I'm sure it was about a year after it was released, came on cable, and it was a movie that came on a lot, so I watched it a lot.
The edited version or unedited?
Unedited.
Yeah, nothing worth in watching this on TBS or something.
No. I don't even think they would show this on TBS.
I mean,
you'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
TNT.
Yeah, where it's just like, oh, come on. Yeah, how about you, Ted?
College, definitely.
Definitely college.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely college.
Yeah, definitely. I think if my memory serves me correct, I know that this is one of the times that I watched it was one of the freshman year courses that we had to take and going to college was kind of like a catch-all type of thing, intro to college thing.
Oh, like a general ed kind of thing?
Yeah, and it was
intro to racism?
Yeah, and we were supposed to pick something that was out of our comfort zone. So my friend and I decided to do the Klan, and we watched this.
Out of our comfort zone. Interesting.
Yeah, you were supposed to do something that made you feel uncomfortable. What about you, Eric? When did you first see this?
Well, I rented this movie when I was in high school, probably my junior or senior year, if I remember. And yeah, that's when I saw it. I've only seen it a handful of times since then, not many. Watching this again was I don't want to say treat. It was a real eye-opening experience. I got to say, real eye-opening experience.
You know what? Now that you mention high school, maybe it was high school.
That's all
I
right.
think we watched it in religion class.
No, stop it.
Yeah, no.
Why would you watch it in religion class?
Seriously?
It was about hatred and things, yeah.
In high school?
But
they actually showed this
senior year.
They make fun of the Bible in this movie. So why would they do that?
Well,
they point that the Bible tells you that racism comes from
the language and some sexuality in this is really
you didn't grow up in the South, so there's a lot of justifications that are used in the Bible for hatred.
Right.
But I'm talking about your class.
Yeah, it was religion class. I have this memory now of us getting into an argument in religion class over watching this movie.
That just seems really, really aggressive for and you went to this is a private high school, right?
I went to a Catholic high school.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just finding it really
I'm
Which they would-
questioning why they would do that.
It's about hatred and
It is.
things like that.
No,
Yeah.
it is. But I'm not talking. Okay, so high school, well, it is private, though. So I don't know.
And it was, what would have been? It'd been 96, 97. Nobody's going to bitch and complain about having, a little bit of language. I mean,
Yeah,
we
if
watched
not, then the nuns will just hit you.
our freshman year of high school, we watched Romeo and Juliet, the original.
No, I did that too. Yeah.
And that's got boobs in it.
Well, Ted, on that note, why don't you get us into particulars of Mississippi Burning?
Okay, Mississippi Burning was directed by Alan Parker. Is a screenplay by Chris Gerlomo. The music was by a guy named Trevor Jones, and the film is actually inspired by the actual real-life murder of voting rights civil activists James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, and Andrew Goodman. It has a running time of 128 minutes. It was released December 9th, 1988. Merry Christmas. A budget of $15 million. Box office gross $34.6 million. The release date for December was because they wanted to get it in time for Oscars.
The awards. Yeah, it makes sense.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it comes in at a 79% critic score, so just below that certified fresh. And it has an audience score of 90%, which seems more accurate. It also has an IMDb rating of 7.8. And just out of curiosity, I looked up what Roger Ebert had to say for the critic score. He said this was one of the best movies of 1988.
He actually said it was the best movie of 1988.
And gave it a 4 out of 4. Okay, so Mississippi Burning stars Gene Hackman as FBI agent Rupert Anderson, who's based on the real-life John Proctor. Willem Dafoe as FBI agent Alan Ward, who's based on the real-life Joseph Sullivan. Frances McDormand as Mrs. Pell, who's based on the real-life Connor Price. Brad Dourif, who we just talked about on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, stars as Deputy Sheriff Clinton Pell, who's based on the real-life Cecil Price. Arlie Ermey as Mayor Tillman, who's based on the real-life Abner Ab Harbor. Gayard Sartain as Ray Stuckey, Sheriff of the Jessup County, who's based off of Lawrence A. Rainey. Stephen Tobolowsky as Clayton Townley, who's based on the real-life Samuel Bowers. Michael Rooker as Frank Bailey, based off the real-life Alton Wayne Roberts. Taylor Vince as Lester Cowens, who's based on Jimmy Snowden. Stephen Bridgewater as Wesley Cook. Baja Djola as FBI agent Monk. Kevin Dunn as FBI agent Bird. Frankie Faison as the eulogist. And he pops up in a lot of things that we've done. He's Silence of the Lambs he's in, and a few other movies that we've done. And Darius McCary as Aaron, the eulogist's son. And Tobin Bell as FBI agent Stokes, who was in Saw. He plays Jigsaw.
Crazy.
This is his first credited role.
Cool.
Ken's Tidbits!
As Ted already stated, that this film is based on the murder of voting rights activist James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, and Andrew Goldman. It was determined, by the way, that James Chaney and Michael Schwerner were dead when they were buried, but traces of red clay in Andrew Goodman's lungs and fist indicated that he was buried alive.
Yeah.
So that was probably something Ted was going to bring up later on in his
Horrific
stuff here. Something me and Ted talked about last night. Andrew Goodman was a school friend of musician Paul Simon. The Simon Garfunkel song "He Was My Brother" was a tribute to Goodman.
I did not know that. That's pretty cool that I learned that.
The name Mississippi Burning was the name of an actual FBI case that was abbreviated to M.I. Burn. And Milos Forman and John Schlesinger were considered to direct this film.
That's interesting that Milos Forman was tabbed to direct this. It's an interesting take.
So Samuel Jackson, he went for this part, but they said that he didn't sound Southern enough, and so
I
he didn't get the part.
I never saw what part he was reading for. I wonder if it's for the agent who confronts the mayor. the guy who got that part was Jola
Okay.
Baja DeJola.
Well, it's funny because Alan Parker is from North London, England,
Mm-hmm.
but he gets to choose who sounds, I guess, Southern enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Ted already mentioned that this was Tobin Bell's first credited role. This was also Kevin Dunn's film debut. And Don Johnson campaigned very heavily for this role that went to William Dafoe.
Don Johnson, wow. Coming off the heels of Miami Vice, huh?
Yeah, no, I don't
And
like
his solo album, Heartbeat.
This film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, and Best Sound. It only won for cinematography.
I'm surprised
Best Actor,
Hackman. I'm surprised win.
It was a really good role for him and for Frances McDormand, who was also nominated here.
Was that Rain Man's year?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Dustin Hoffman went full retard, and
I don't think he went full retard.
Nobody goes full retard.
Nobody ever goes full
Tropic Thunder.
That movie. On that note about Gene Hackman, since this is a movie like focusing on him, I kind of wanted to talk very briefly about all the stuff that just recently happened and just like look at really quickly at a great career that he had. So this time that we're recording, we have found out just recently that his wife actually had died before him, almost like a week before he died.
Damn.
She had died from a virus that you would get from rodents.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Criminy.
Yeah. So that tells you how bad a shape he was in. He probably wasn't very coherent even after she died.
He had advanced Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And in fact, they said when he died, there wasn't any food in his stomach, so he maybe forgot how to eat. But he did know how to drink. So there was fluid, but there was nothing there was not any food.
Pretty sad, man. Pretty sad.
You watch a movie like this, and you look at his career as him being a strong individual. Yeah. His characters are always strong individual characters.
I like him as a bad guy.
He's good as a bad guy. I mean, he's great also as a guy who takes charge too. We've watched, of course, Hoosiers. We've reviewed that for our podcast before.
Watched that the other night.
And we've considered some other movies for this podcast. I know Eric's a big fan of The Conversation. One of his favorite movies. One of my favorite movies is Crimson Tide. That might be more of a blockbuster movie, but it still shows how, strong of a lead he is.
And you have to bring up The French Connection.
Yeah.
Even though it's not one of our favorites.
We don't have to bring up The French Connection too, which I caught a few minutes of. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Dear God, no.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about The French
Connection.
And
I'm sorry. I liked him as Lex Luthor in Superman.
Yeah.
He's a perfect Lex Luthor.
Yes. And even in Superman 2.
After this movie, he tried to stay away from movies that were violent.
Yeah.
So he did some comedies.
Until Unforgiven.
Quick and the Dead's kind of violent, isn't it?
Quick and the Dead was after. Yeah, it was after Unforgiven.
It was after this.
Yeah. But he actually turned down, I think, a role to direct Silence of the Lambs because he was very upset.
That's interesting too. I read that. That's really interesting.
That is crazy.
Lucky for Mike. Was it?
Did he direct any other movies?
I didn't really take much of a look at his direct.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny that he would be offered a directorial debut, if you will, of Silence of the Lambs. Did he not want to direct, or is it the violence of the movie?
I guess it was violence.
It was the violence. Yeah, from what we read, it was the violence of the movie. So some movies here that I'll just go over real quick, and I'm not going to go through. I'm just going to go through the highlights here, and the one that sticks out, from early in his career is Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah,
of course.
1967.
Mm-hmm.
Good movie.
Other ones that I think are, we talked about The French Connection, The Poseidon Adventure of 1972. The Conversation, we talked about that in 1974. And then we talked about his role in Young Frankenstein. One of the best cameos, I think, ever in a movie. I don't even know if you want to consider that a cameo because it's really meaty. So later on, we talked about Superman and Superman 2, and unfortunately he came back for Superman 4.
Yeah. Is that Quest for Peace?
The quest for a shitty movie.
The Quest for More Money?
Uncommon Valor.
Yeah.
Valor?
No Way Out.
Yeah, Kevin Costner.
Yep. And then he was very busy in the 80s. I mean, he
my
was
goodness.
He was
extremely busy.
the
Oh,
man.
yeah.
After Mississippi Burning, he did The Package. Loose Cannons.
Poor Gene Hackman.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. A Narrow Margin, Class Action, just a lot.
Class Action, yeah.
Unforgiven in 92, and then The Firm, which we also have done.
Firm, yep.
Firm,
Very good.
Wyatt Earp. The Quick and the Dead was
Yeah.
95,
Yep.
along with Crimson Tide, and Get Shorty.
I love Get Shorty, yep.
I do.
Yeah, that's right. He was in Get
Yeah,
Shorty.
yeah.
That's a funny
Extreme
movie.
Measures, Absolute Power, Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State is great.
Ooh.
That is supposedly, Enemy of the State is a sequel to The Conversation.
What?
Not officially, but it has been noted as a... Have you seen The Conversation?
No.
You got to see The Conversation. It is a sequel to The Conversation.
Enemy of the State with Will Smith.
With Will Smith, yes.
It was good. It was all right movie. I liked it. I saw that in the theater.
I like it, yeah.
Some other ones in late his career, The Replacements, Heartbreakers, Behind Enemy Lines. Which one are you throwing up on there, Ted?
You can go with all three of those.
Owen
Wilson. Okay.
Owen Wilson as a action star is a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I didn't think it was too bad. One of my least, but I might give it another shot now that he's passed on, the Royal Tenenbaums.
I love the Royal Tenenbaums.
And then Wes Anderson.
His last movie was Welcome to Mooseport.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Was he ever on Love Boat?
Love Boat. No, he was never on Love Boat. He did some TV.
Yeah, a little bit.
Not a lot.
One interesting tidbit, I don't know if you read this. That
Ted's tidbit.
Yeah, Ken, I don't know if you read this, that Alan Parker actually directed the interviews of the real life Mississippians that when they're going through the swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got disturbed because he didn't know if they actually believed what he was having them say.
One last little tidbit on the TV. He actually was in Diners, Dive-Ins, and Dives as himself, and I think it was because of his own restaurant. Because he owned a restaurant late in his life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's unfortunate that he had to be seen with Guy Fieri.
Well, true, but was he in pretty bad shape at that point?
No, he wasn't.
Sure not.
Okay.
A good portion of his retirement, from what I understood, was him playing golf and tending to his restaurant, which he eventually sold. And I think probably by the time he sold it, he was probably slipping at that particular time. It makes you wonder, though. I mean, granted, when he retired, he was about 74, 75 years old when he retired from acting. Yeah, I mean, I know there was one last episode with Larry Keane that I watched where they interviewed him, and he's like, nobody's offering me any parts at this moment, which sound like, why? But we lost him. He was one of my favorite actors. I enjoyed a lot of his films, and he'll be greatly missed. It really bothers me how he went out.
Yes,
I know he would live to be 95, and that's a very good age to get to, but it just reminds me how life can just be so cruel at the end.
Yeah,
so
very
that's
much
all
so.
of Ken's tidbits. I know Ted has some stuff that he wants to talk about as far as the differences between what really happened.
Little fact versus Hollywood lore, huh?
Yeah.
Fact versus Hollywood fiction, right?
All right, go for it, Ted.
There are three little things and then one major thing. So when the Navy is searching the swamp, they don't bring it up in the movie, but actually when they were searching the swamp for Schwarmer, Goodman, and Cheney, they actually found 8 other bodies. In real life. They found 8 other dead African Americans.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's messed the hell up.
Wow.
They found Jimmy Hoffa?
In that little area of the swamp they were looking, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so in the movie it's Clinton. His name's Clinton Pell, but his real life name is Cecil Price. Cecil Price is actually a very interesting person. He went to jail, served his time for his connection into this particular case. But when he got out, he never gave any interviews until the New York Times magazine interviewed him in 1977. He was chained. He was a changed person. And he said that on racial integration that we have to accept that this is the way things are going to be, and we have to learn to live with it, is what he said. He also was good friends with an African-American pastor, who said that he had reformed. Now, ESPN did a 30 for 30 documentary on a football player named Marcus Dupree. It's called The Best That Never Was. And Marcus Dupree was Eric Dickerson before Eric Dickerson was Eric Dickerson, okay? And so Marcus Dupree was actually best friends with Cecil Price's son, Cecil Jr. And when Marcus Dupree blew out his knee and finally had to retire very early in his football career, Cecil Price actually got him his commercial driver's license and gave him a job and made sure that he was taken care of. So you talk about somebody who actually rehabilitated themselves. Now, on the other side of that coin is Samuel Bowers, and the movie is called Clayton Towley.
Yes.
He was the founder and the first Imperial Wizard of the Mississippi White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1998, Bowers was convicted and sentenced to life in prison for the 1966 murder of civil rights leader Vernon Dahmer, and he died in prison. So he never rehabilitated himself. The most interesting thing, though, that's not brought up in the movie, and this is real because I read the biography of this man. The person who got the most information by the FBI, they flew this man in from New York. And this guy is a known mafia enforcer and killer. His name is Greg the Grim Reaper Scarpa.
Cool name.
Yes. He was an FBI informant for many years for the mafia, and he was flown from New York to Mississippi for the intent purpose to scare the living shit out of these Klan members. In the files, his involvement was documented. The only thing that's never been documented is the name of the informant who told on the 17 people involved. Because there were 17 people charged for civil rights violations. Because back in 1964 or whatever, when this took place, murder wasn't a federal crime, which is kind of messed up. It's a state crime, and it is still mostly a state crime. But yeah, so Greg the Grim Reaper Scarpa, who had a lot of bodies under his name as far as being a mob enforcer.
Okay.
Was the man who put the fear of God into the Klan in Mississippi.
And how did that work?
If memory serves me correct from the biography, they smuggled him into LaGuardia and flew him to Mississippi for a night and a day, and then flew him back so he wouldn't miss any time. And so he didn't have to explain where he was to his fellow mob members or mafia members. And the scene where they take Lester out of his shop, he went and got that guy, the guy who is the real life Lester, and got him out of his TV repair shop and took him and basically tortured him for about 13 hours.
They kill him?
No, he didn't kill him. No, because he served time in prison. But
He needed his testimony.
Yeah, he quote unquote convinced him to testify. That's how they learned the 17 people who were involved, and that's how they found out how the killings went down. That's pretty cool. And like I said, I was very skeptical until I read because Scarpa's son wrote a biography with the guy who wrote the biography of Henry Hill.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, there you go. There's some interesting things about this movie we would have never known. Cool. All right.
It's time for the setup.
The setup. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Up.
This is a short one here, but there's so much information. In 1964, 3 civil rights workers, 2 Jewish and 1 black, go missing while they are in fictional Jessup County, Mississippi. The actual events took place in Neshoba County, organizing a voter registry for African Americans.
Is Jessup County fictional?
I don't. It sounds like a Mississippi county. There's Jessup counties. I don't know if it's in Mississippi. The FBI sends Alan Ward and Rupert Anderson to investigate. Ward is a Northerner, senior in rank, but much younger than Anderson, and approaches the investigation by the book. In contrast, Anderson, a former Mississippi sheriff, which I do find a little hard to believe, but I'll go with it, is more nuanced in his approach. The pair find it difficult to conduct interviews with the local townspeople, as Sheriff Ray Stuckey and his deputies influence the public and are linked to the branch of the Ku Klux Klan.
This is what I'll say about you didn't believe that he was a sheriff of a Mississippi town.
I didn't believe that Gene Hackman's character, born and raised northern Mississippi by Tennessee border, but still,
It's essentially a suburb of Memphis.
Right, and that's what I was going to say and so at that time and that era, they had more progressive thoughts. They were moving a lot towards non-segregation.
Even though Memphis is where they assassinated Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, but accents transcend time and thought.
Well, accents are different all over the South. I mean, there's deep southern Alabama, there's Georgia, and then like we were talking before, the Foghorn Leghorn is more South Carolina. And Gene Hackman still, I mean, he does a very good job here, but he's still an Illinoisan.
I mean, I'm glad they put Hackman in that role, but yeah, you could have went with someone who was a little bit more of a southern, I don't know.
See, I think the reason why they didn't do that is because they wanted to have a strong difference between a northern Mississippian, I don't know if that's the word to use, Mississippian, to the southern Mississippian, because they don't respect that he's an ex-sheriff from the northern part of Mississippi, because it doesn't.
They don't care. You left.
That he became a Hoover boy.
Right, Hoover boy.
Yeah, but they also don't respect his upbringing. They don't feel him as a true Mississippian because of where he lived.
That's typical South. I can't express to you how typical that is.
What I really like about this beginning here, you just don't know if Anderson is actually racist or not. Because it seems at the beginning that he kind of says things that are very racist or makes pleas for why people act the way they do.
Because he knows. He's been around.
Because he knows, but it comes across being a little bit like excuses.
That's the Southern way. He's trying to get Ward to see things from a different perspective, and that there are different sides to the coin. And even though we're talking about horrible, disgusting racism, these people believe it. And Ward just doesn't have any tolerance for any of it. And I completely get it, but he comes in like a bulldozer trying to just bowl everybody over, and
it doesn't work.
It's not going to work.
Not with
there has to be nuance.
It reminds me of The Untouchables. Kevin Costner's character coming in, Elliot Ness, and trying to make his mark, right?
Yeah,
and needs somebody like Sean Connery's character come in and kind of let him know.
A very fictional character.
This is not how it works, right? But even Ward is confused about what Anderson is saying and doing because he doesn't know which side he's on.
Because it's so foreign to him. We come to find out that he was at Oxford when the black girl tried to integrated the University of Mississippi.
He shot in the shoulder.
Ole Miss, right? Because there's riots, and that's another 30 for 30 through ESPN, The Ghosts of Mississippi, which is really good. He's trying to help Ward understand what's going on, and Ward just has no business of it. Now, had you guys ever heard the song that he?
No, that was the first time I heard it. Catchy tune, yes, but
I heard, go top 4. 1962.
Here, Casey Kasem.
That's a song from the late 19-teens.
Yeah,
the first major revival of the Klan in America, or the revival of the Klan in America, because the Klan had been dormant for a long time, but then as World War One was ending, the Klan had a massive resurgence, and that's where they had probably the most people involved in the Klan. I believe their ranks rose to about 11 million, and they had senators and representatives in both houses of Congress that were racist. We're talking about The Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
That movie came out, so it's a massive resurgence. And then the building of Stone Mountain in Georgia.
Yeah, and then Gone with the Wind.
Gone with
Gone
the
with
Wind by
the
Margaret.
Wind.
Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell was a massive hit in the 20s. But that song, I actually heard that song late in grade school, 7th, 8th grade. I knew this song. I mean, it's horrible.
I just think it's interesting there because they have two different styles of approaches here.
Mhm.
You got Ward, he's kind of, he's by the book. And sometimes he's right. And that's what I like about this movie is sometimes Ward is right to be doing things the procedural way.
Sometimes.
Because of the fact that he doesn't get emotionally involved in the process.
He's emotionally involved.
He's emotionally involved, but he still goes by the book. Whereas Anderson, when he gets emotionally involved, he wants to
different.
It's just different.
Ward wants to take an axe to get a splinter out of your finger rather than taking tweezers, whereas Hackman's character wants to take tweezers to get the splinter out of your finger. And that's kind of what we're talking about here and when we first meet these two people. The most disturbing thing is how the movie actually starts.
With the water fountains? I mean, that's an interesting beginning.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
You mean personally in my lifetime?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
Okay.
How old do you think I am?
Because I actually have. When we would vacation around Arkansas in southern Missouri, there was still something like that.
Something like that set up?
You could still, the signs weren't there, but you could tell.
You could tell it was.
Yeah, I kind of had the same vacationing type of things that made me think that could be it too when I was younger.
It's disturbing.
Let's talk about the build-up to the murder. The build-up to this with the cars going up and down the hills.
Yeah.
It is just and the music. It is just an incredible build-up. And you got the cars, and you got the deputy and his good old boys behind him, and they pull him over, and how they think, I'll talk my way through it, not a problem. Yeah. It's all good. Just that build-up. I mean, you don't think the deputy's going to blow his head off right there. I mean, it was like, oh my goodness. Didn't even think twice.
It's actually Michael Rooker's character.
Rooker, you're right. I'm sorry, it was Rooker. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think any of them thought that this was going to happen.
No, of course not.
His character had an agenda.
They should have.
They should have. They were delusional. They should have.
I mean, at this time, they were lighting Freedom Ride buses on fire.
Yeah. With them in
people
them.
With people inside.
Yeah.
Okay,
they'd not have been a shock. They just thought, hey, there's a siren on, it's a cop, everything's cool. Well, far from it.
Not in deep Mississippi.
Correct.
It's quite disturbing, and then you hear, well, at least I shot me a...
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to say it, because I can't. I can't bring myself to.
Well, you don't need to.
It's jarring, and then we get Ward and Anderson in the car
driving
into Mississippi, and
I love the billboard, right? The nice white family, all
the Magnolia State.
Yeah.
I do like the fact when Hackman buys the bag of pecans, the warm pecans, and Frances McDormand says, "I hate pecans," because. Yeah, those are
pecans.
Yeah.
Those are all. I mean, Georgia and Mississippi. That's what they're known for.
I hate pecans myself.
Really? You don't
my
like
least favorite?
You don't like pecan pie?
Pecan pie?
It's my least favorite nut.
Pecan pie is awesome, bro.
I'm not saying pecan pie is not awesome, but the actual nut itself, eating it by itself.
You don't like nuts in your mouth?
Why do you?
Do you?
Yeah.
Sometimes. But I like when they drive in and you got the people watching them.
Yes.
God, that feeling
Oh yeah, they stick out like a sore thumb. It is.
Oh, yes.
My goodness.
Well, of course, the way they're dressed, they're dressed like they're here for
They're
something,
dressed like
right?
FBI guys.
They're dressed like
Right.
FBI guys. There. What does the deputy say? Oh, you guys
You're not undercover.
not undercover. Yeah.
Right. Was it Federal Bureau of Integration?
Integration. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the two different styles are right there.
Oh
You
yeah.
have Ward who comes in and he's like,
We'll wait.
"We'll wait."
Yeah.
And then you have Anderson come sit down on the desk and you're like,
because he
"You better
knows
get
what he's
him here."
doing.
He knows. He knows
Yeah.
that sheriff's there.
It's good
Yeah.
cop, bad cop. Well, they knew
No,
that they were there, but they were just
Anderson
busy.
knows that Pell is just fucking with him. And he's like, you don't have any authority here. That's the one thing Ward never gets. He's a stranger in a strange land. It's America, but this is not anything like you've ever experienced.
It's like the sheriff says at the barbershop.
Exactly.
Very, very famous. A very famous line there, where he talks about white culture and Negro culture, and that's the way. And Anderson goes, "Well, most of America wouldn't agree with you there." And the sheriff goes, "Well, I don't give a shit what America thinks. You're in Mississippi."
Every town has their own way of doing things. And this town is like, we have our rules and we think it works great. And you're going to come in and you're going to offset the balance. The movie could have maybe done a better job of explaining how rampant, like you said earlier, it said about how many bodies were found in the swamp. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of that because it just seems like
they figure it out.
They figure it out. Well, but they don't show that in the movie per se.
Yeah,
Basically, how they play it out is the FBI comes in, and then all these bad things start happening to the black community.
They find out exactly how the murder of these three boys went down.
Right, and I understand about the murder of the three boys, but what I'm trying to say here,
I mean, it's routine.
That's what I'm trying to say, and I don't think they showed it as routine. Basically, and they even say when they get to that judge who suspends the sentencing later on.
Crazy.
He's like, hey, what you did was wrong, but because of outside influences, we're going to suspend the sentences. And that's what I'm saying is the first part of the movie is kind of blaming the FBI for all the bad things that happened to the black community, which we know is bullshit, but that's why it's painted to be.
Okay, so it's bullshit, but there is some truth to what Anderson's saying. Then we meet Sheriff Ray Stuckey, and I saw an actual picture of the real life guy. They did a really good job in casting.
Pretty much good old boys you get.
Right.
Tobacco, bald, yeah.
And shirt
unbuttoned, sweating.
You couldn't get a more stereotype small town county sheriff in Mississippi than him. I mean, all he needed to be was Sheriff Coltrane
or Ned Beatty in the those Burt Reynolds movies.
Yes, yeah. You know that these guys aren't taking this seriously, and of course, immediately Chicago is brought up, and everybody who thinks that Chicago has been this boogeyman or straw man that has been around the South is something that's relatively new as this beacon of integration and degeneration for America, that Chicago's always been held like that. No. Chicago's always been held as this straw man argument in the South, because it's brought up at least twice in this movie. So that's not something recent, people. This has been long time that it's been this way.
Yeah,
it's crazy. You get this laissez-faire attitude that these guys have towards these kids disappearing.
Laissez-faire. They don't even consider
give
them
a
practically
shit.
human.
One because they're Jewish, and one because the other is because the other kid was black.
Yeah.
Well, I think here also is that they, with the FBI coming in here, they know, hey, they're going to come in, they're going to leave. Our town's going to go the way it always has been. And that's what
the mayor brings up.
This is just a blurb. Yeah.
And a couple of the black people mention that too.
Sure.
We have to live here after you leave.
We have to live here after you leave, yeah.
I mean, and we also get at the very beginning the picture of the burning church.
Yes.
A lot of burning churches in this movie. Every time their church goes up, it gets
Real,
burned down.
Well,
real
it's-
churches that were burned.
Yes.
Real
No, this
abandoned
is-
churches. And the director
yeah,
even
no, this
said
is
that was one thing I read is he felt really insecure and
Uncomfortable?
bad, uncomfortable about
Yeah.
burning churches to the ground like this.
fuck yeah. That's severe intimidation.
But the lake
I
was
mean-
added. The lake was added. No
That's
severe
a- that's-
intimidation. Yeah. No, I get
That's
it.
a real deal. I mean, the 4 girls in Alabama,
Yeah.
the 4 little black girls that were blown up.
Yeah,
I believe was it Spike Lee did a documentary about them?
Wouldn't surprise me.
I want to say he did.
I mean, this is our introduction to the sheriff and also to Clinton, Mr. Powell over there, and they just feel like they're untouchable.
It's their town. Oh,
They
yeah.
are.
They are
They
untouchable.
are. They are because they're Klan.
I don't know if they are because they're Klan. I think they are because it's their town. Like I said, they're once they're gone, it doesn't matter. All they have to do is stay the way they are.
Stall. Yeah.
So, yeah. Wait them out. That wasn't that what the mayor or the governor of Alabama said? Segregation today. George
But
Wallace, segregation
you-
today, segregation tomorrow,
think that
segregation
they're-
forever.
Like if they don't retaliate against the black community, they don't burn houses and.
But they don't want the black community talking to the FBI. It's all
They don't want 'em-
intimidation.
But
They
they're
don't
not
want to talk
going
to
to talk
the FBI.
anyway.
They don't want them to vote.
Some of
They
them
don't
did.
want any of it.
Well, none of them. They didn't. So at the beginning of the movie, we see
It
the
doesn't
diner
matter.
situation.
They
It
don't
doesn't
care.
matter. It's the appearance.
It's intimidation.
It's
yeah.
the appearance
But
intimidation.
that's what keeps the FBI there, is their intimidation tactics.
Well, that and they want to find the bodies.
But here's
Right.
the thing: is if they don't do the intimidation tactics, and they don't find they'll find anything. The FBI leaves pretty soon, leaves pretty quickly.
Maybe. I doubt it, though. There was a massive push during this time. Okay, so the time where this took place, you have to remember Johnson just sold his soul to and his entire career passing the Civil Rights Amendment. That's why nothing else ever got done in Johnson's presidency except for starting the Vietnam War. He sold every favor that he had to pass the Civil Rights Amendment. You have the sit-ins are taking place, the freedom rides are taking place. There was a spotlight here on the FBI that Hoover even hated to take these things seriously, and Johnson pressured Hoover big time to start to crack down on this. And even that goes even back to Kennedy. That's when Bobby started to pressure Hoover to take these things seriously. I mean, that's where you had them in Arkansas and Little Rock taking the kid to high school, and the girl who integrated Ole Miss. And so there's a big serious spotlight on these crimes, and the disappearance of these 3 boys was a huge deal. They would have stayed until they found the bodies.
But that's not how the movie plays it off. So
It's
the movie,
not how they play it off, but
and that's what I'm going off of. I know
Okay.
you like to go by history.
no,
I'm going by the movie.
but that's why they would have stayed.
But in the movie, every time they get more people, it's because
it
something
pisses-
happens to the black community.
Yeah, it
This
pisses
is-
Ward off.
Ward
And
off,
he asks-
and then
he
he
asks
asks
for
for
more and more
another
people.
100, and then another 100, and give me as many people as you can. And
He's not
that's-
listening to Anderson.
But I'm just saying, based on the movie itself, I'm feeling, based on how they're doing this, as if they would have just laid low.
That's definitely how the movie frames it. Or at least that's the appearance that the movie gives. And I think it does a good job as showing the intimidation. Well, we'll talk about it. Why don't we get into the next section here? Because there's a few things that happen here that are very interesting, in my opinion.
Okay.
The build.
The build. Oh my goodness.
This should be a huge reading portion.
It's a couple paragraphs. So yeah. With the help of the son of a local pastor, the FBI is finally able to bring forward a witness who saw a Klansman firebomb a house, and 3 white men are arrested and tried for felony arson. A local judge, however, gives the men a token suspended sentence while deriding the FBI as outside agitators who provoked the men to violence. He then releases the men, who promptly hang the witness's father and attempt to kill the witness. The FBI evacuate the family to the north and realize they will receive no help at all from local authorities. Anderson has developed a close relationship with the wife of Deputy Sheriff Clinton Pell, that he did, who in a tearful confession reveals to Anderson that the 3 missing men had been murdered by her husband and his Klansmen accomplices, who then buried the bodies in an earthen dam. After the bodies are discovered, revealing to the nation that the disappearance of the civil rights workers was in fact murder, Pell beats his wife brutally in retribution after discovering her betrayal. Ward and Anderson's different approaches spill over into a physical fight, which Ward wins, but he concedes that his methods have been ineffective and gives Anderson carte blanche authorization to deal with the problem in his own way. Anderson devises a plan to indict members of the Klan for civil rights violations instead of murder, because civil rights violations are federal crimes for which conviction is more certain than state-level charges for murder. The FBI arranges the kidnapping of Mayor Tillman, taking him to a remote shack where he is left with a black man who threatens to castrate him unless he speaks out. Oh my goodness. Tillman gives him a complete description of the killings, including the names of those who were involved in it. The abductor is revealed to be an FBI operative who has been assigned to intimidate Tillman. Although the obtained information is inadmissible in court because it was obtained by coercion, it still proves to be valuable to the investigators. Holy cow, there's so much here.
And so much we left out.
Oh, I know.
There's so much left here. One of the things that Ward should have known better immediately was when they go into the diner. Never
Culture.
have
Yes.
done that.
No.
And I can't believe that he would have been that naive to think that there wouldn't have been retribution against, and that kid didn't tell him anything.
No, but the
Klan,
they didn't care and they didn't know.
And that's why I said earlier in the podcast in that scene is that he doesn't say anything, but he gets the retribution anyway because he was seen talk.
Yeah.
Anderson should have just held his ground on this one. Anderson knows better, so why doesn't he just say, "Hey,
yeah,
this is why I don't want to go over there."
Yeah, and then we get the result of them burning a cross in the motor court.
Yeah,
where they're staying. That's unfortunately that's real.
I really like watching William Dafoe chase them in that, and it looks like he actually hurt himself accidentally, probably, and they kept it in the film. I don't know that to be a fact, but it made it for good realism.
He trips over one of the rails.
I thought one of the real big scenes was bringing in all the sailors and the FBI guys to go through the swamp. When they find that car, when it was one of the local guys helps them find the car, and all these guys in suits are just trekking through the swamp.
Yeah. After
that, it's like, okay, now all gloves are off.
Yeah. It's because once everything happens with the kid in the diner, that's where he brings in 100 more people to start to canvass everything. But the result of that then is when we meet Clayton Townley, who's the chief pointy head.
Businessman.
Yeah,
American Mississippian.
Bullshit.
That speech he gives is pretty impressive.
It's classic
Insurance Klan from Groundhog's Day.
Exactly.
It's classic Klan. This is the playbook. When he's talking to the press and they're like, I'm just a businessman. That's such bullshit.
But pretty much his explanation is what the Klan stands for.
Exactly.
Right there. Yeah.
We don't believe in papists.
Yes.
We don't believe in communists. We don't. Yeah. That is the Klan.
Yeah.
And that is hardcore. We call those true believers.
Yeah. Right.
Those guys aren't just there for the picnic after the cross burning. These guys are there under the hoods. And
these are the Michael Rookers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is amazing in this movie. He is great in this movie.
Oh man, when Hackman's like grabs his balls. After
that's one of my favorite scenes.
It is an incredible scene.
The social club, right? Because
social club.
Right. You have to be a member.
Dry state, right? Dry county.
Yeah,
So.
it's a dry county, and but I like Arlie Ermey's retort on that. It's a dry county, and we have the alcoholics to prove it.
Right.
The county's dry as a martini, and
Dry as a martini. Yeah.
and we have the alcoholics to prove it. God, it's so scuzzy and accurate. But you're right. When they bring in the Navy, because I love how that's shot, where you see the buses of the Navy guys, and then the houses exploding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything, just as a retaliation for them bringing all these people in. And maybe they could have kept in, like you said, Ken, maybe they could have kept in the fact that they found 8 bodies in real life. Would have been interesting.
But that would have taken away from the actual movie itself.
Right.
But yes, that would have been.
And it's funny that they find the car on a Choctaw reservation.
Yes.
Yeah, and the guy's, of course, he's gutting a catfish. Made me want catfish.
Why was it found on their nation, on their land?
Because one, it's not federal. It's
not federal land. Okay.
Not federal land.
Yeah.
It's basically its own country, essentially, that's controlled by Department of the Interior. But that's weird.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. And they knew that they could just deposit that car there, and it would probably never be found.
Yeah.
I was surprised they were able to find anything
in the car.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't burn the car. And
I
then
am too.
And then put it in the swamp.
Yeah, they have to burn everything else.
The car was not in the best of shape, even for being in the water. So they
all the
did.
windows had exploded out when it sank into the swamp.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, there were probably things that they just didn't really care about. I mean, because here's the thing: they know that's the car.
They left the plates on it.
Well, even if you take the plates off it, you're going to figure out that this is still the car. There's other ways to find out.
The VIN. Yeah, the VIN number.
The VIN number, exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they get the information that they need. How does the mayor know all the things that are happening if he's not part of the Klan?
Are you kidding?
He's part.
But he knows way too much information.
Yeah.
And then the wife knows everything too.
Of course she does.
Of the deputy sheriff.
So the informant thing is a combination of a couple of people: Pell's wife and the mayor, and then Lester. So you got those 3 people kind of make up the informant idea.
Well, the Lester, I understand, because Lester by the time it gets to Lester, they're kind of playing that this person said this about you and all that stuff.
But
in the next section of the movie, but
you're not serious about wondering why the mayor knew, right?
I'm more serious about why she knew as much as she did, especially if he knows.
She put 2 and 2 together.
Everyone living in that town knows.
Okay. Not only did she put 2 to 2 together, she knew exactly where the bodies were buried.
Because
how did she find that information out?
Because they don't care. They'll talk about this shit.
They brag about it.
They
probably had Klan meetings at his house.
Exactly, because they asked him directly, "Are you a Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan?" Mm-hmm. That's because he was.
I would think that he would know that his wife doesn't agree with his
way he is. What does he care? What does he care?
We see earlier when he makes the comment about they're so cute when they're babies, right?
Yeah.
God, I heard that so much as a kid.
You see that she has a heart for them, and he has to see that she has a heart for them. So why would she be have her at those meetings or in the house at those meetings?
Because they don't care.
Their power. They don't feel that they would ever have any of their power ever taken away from them.
In their wedding pictures.
Yeah, the Klan thing.
They have the 3 fingers on the outside of their tuxedos.
Which Hackman
points out immediately. I knew that too. I knew that was a sign for the Klan. And the secret handshake, they actually don't show the secret handshake.
I just think the movie is a little convenient. First of all, why does he go into the beauty shop in the first place? He doesn't know enough about him and his wife that he's going to get any information out of her. He doesn't even know that she even works there.
He just came from the barber shop. No, he has no idea that's who it is because they get introduced there.
He just wanted a haircut.
He wanted to go to the barber shop.
Okay,
so Anderson's very smart. He knows where things are going to get talked about. They're going to get talked about at the barber shop, and they're going to get talked about at the beauty shop.
Southern culture.
Southern culture.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense why
Well,
he
that
went in there.
makes perfect sense. In fact, that makes more sense to me than them doing it at his house. A Ku Klux Klan meeting at his house. It makes more sense at a barber shop. If the information came from the barber, I could buy that a little bit more than the wife, just to be honest with you.
They also play loose and quick with, does Hackman actually sleep with her? And
yeah, little loosened. Yeah.
In fact,
yeah, he does.
Hackman, Hackman asked in the movie, because they did have a sex scene.
Yeah,
he says
they cut
that
it. He wanted to be more ambiguous.
So there's only a kiss. They never sleep with each other.
But
the plan was for them to sleep with each other, but at the end of the day, that didn't happen.
Yeah,
Mainly
we get that they did.
Well, not based on Hackman.
I believe that's why.
That would be pretty sleazy if they did.
I believe that's why Pell beat the shit out of his wife.
I don't think he knew about the affair.
I don't because if they'd have known that she was the one that told him where the bodies were,
would have killed her.
They'd have killed her. They'd have lynched her. They'd have lynched her in the front yard, because you know who told. It's that lady who lives next door. Sees Hackman and drive away, and because she's bringing groceries into the house, and that lady asks, "Oh, are you doing okay?" And she goes, "Oh yeah." And then she goes, "Well, if you need anything, you just let me know." And then we see Hackman's car take a U-turn and drive away. She knows that's the lady who told the sheriff that something's going on, because then she sees him walk into the house.
Maybe. I think it might have happened more when they had I don't know if it was a parade down the street, but you could see them both looking out of the window together.
That's not a parade.
I don't know if it was a funeral.
It was a freedom.
Okay, it's a march.
It's pretty gutsy to do, too. I mean, obviously, didn't end well, but...
Right. But they're both in the window watching it. Everybody can see that they're standing together, and she's talking to him, and we don't know what she's exactly saying. So I would like to have known if the person that lived next door to them, that lady that you said with the baby, if she's the sheriff's wife. That would be kind of...
Yeah, that would have been interesting to know, because that would have been very interesting.
Been a nice connection there. Because, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but him sitting in the car and then him driving away doesn't really constitute...
But then he immediately comes into the house.
No, he doesn't.
He parks behind the house and then comes into the house.
He comes back later, much later. He comes back at night. It's during the daytime when he's there and he leaves. He doesn't. I don't believe he parks behind the house at that moment. In fact, he goes to the beauty shop to get the information.
Yeah,
he gets the information at the beauty salon. He doesn't get it at her house. But somebody's keeping tabs on the whole situation.
Of course, there are.
Yeah, but I don't think they're...
Because the Klan has eyes all over. It's a
Klan town. I like how they play with the fact that maybe a majority of the people in the town are kind of... I mean, they're not necessarily Klan, but they are. But
Klan
they have
adjacent.
Maybe Klan adjacent. Maybe
Klan supportive.
I mean, they do show some people who are anti. They have that one guy who explains that they all should be able to live together.
He calls them, forgive me, but he calls them negras, for one. So yeah, he's real progressive. But
for Mississippi, that's very progressive.
He believes that they've been mistreated.
Right.
You're talking about the guy interviewed.
Yeah.
And you also have to remember, too, suburban culture, people are affluent. People also move in and out of suburban communities like it's nothing. In small town America, generations never leave that town.
No.
And if someone moves in, they're an outsider.
Exactly.
Yes, it's a totally different culture.
She even says there's enough good people here that support her and her beliefs, and
they're just afraid to come forward.
And they are, but they're intimidated by silence.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the end of and that's the end of the movie. Maybe I shouldn't touch it just yet.
No, that's fine, because it's what we were talking about. I'm just saying. I mean, yeah,
the intimidation is gone by that time of the movie.
That guy is the intimidation's still there.
Who's there intimidating him at that particular time?
The Klan.
Okay, the Klan.
Even though Clinton Bowers gets taken away, the Klan is a hydra. It's got many heads. It's never going to be weeded out.
I would say never going to be weeded out completely. However, we don't know. Okay, the mayor commits suicide.
Yeah.
And the
Because
sheriff
he's
the sheriff is
complicit.
acquitted. So I mean, the sheriff might still have his position with him,
Okay,
but
so
everybody else is gone.
you know why the sheriff was acquitted.
Well, because he never put himself in that position.
It's because he had a rock solid alibi.
Well, he was the smart one out of the group because he always,
Well, we'll use that loosely, but
Well,
okay.
yeah, but I mean, he knew better to not put himself in that place. I'm not going to be there.
But
I'm not
Pell
going to be
wanted
there.
to be. Pell
Yeah.
wanted to kill these
Right.
3 kids.
Yeah.
Right.
He's a vicious killer, just like Michael Rooker's character is vicious killer. These, like I said, these are the true believers. These are the Nazis who wore the SS uniform, man. These are the guys that go under the hood. I like the fact that they actually use, when they attack everybody outside that church, that they don't use the pointy hat. They use the normal time.
They use the Civil War era ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's what they.
The sack.
That's what. Yeah, the pillowcase over their head.
Yeah.
With the eyes cut out.
Looked more like a potato sack to me.
It probably was.
That's scarier than the actual white pointy hat. That's when you know the shit's gonna go down. And they used, goddamn, they used axe handles.
Yeah.
That's, you want to talk about accuracy. That kills me every time when Rooker's character kicks that boy as he's praying in the chest.
And the head.
In the head.
Yeah.
I don't know if he caught it, but then he kicks the Bible at him.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, he kicks the Bible away.
This is one of the things this is the hypocrisy, because the Klan is supposed to be Christian. They're supposed to be these God-fearing white people and all of that bullshit. And it's hypocrisy is what it is. It's a hypocrisy, plain and simple.
I would have loved to seen them being in their own church.
The white church? Yeah.
The white church.
Yeah.
That would have been, I would have liked that scene.
It would have added a little bit more to it, because they do come across, most of them, as being they don't believe in God, because they go after the churches,
right?
But we never see them in a church.
But they're black churches.
It's black churches.
Right. They're black churches.
Because black churches are where they congregated. You want to go even further with the irony. It was the slave masters who made their slaves go to church. They weren't Christians when they brought them over.
Oh yeah, from Africa? Of course not. You're absolutely right.
They made them go to church and become Christians and believe. And then that's how they turned it on them as places of where they would congregate. They didn't want them congregating anymore because they started to want rights.
So, quick question. So, with Mayor Tillman, why do we feel like he's the one that's going to talk out of everybody? So, why do they choose him to threaten to cut his balls off, basically?
Because he knows. They never really come out and say whether or not the mayor is Klan.
Yeah, they do. At the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, they say that he's not.
Yeah, they do say that at the end of the movie. But he knows everything.
Everything's going around in the town.
Exactly.
Everything runs through him.
Right.
He's like the centerpiece of info.
He knows Stucky. He knows
He probably
Pell.
gives Stucky the orders.
I don't think he does. I think he just lets the people do what they do.
Bowers. Bowers gives them the orders. Because, you have that great scene where they all of the conspirators end up in the church, and they realize that they've been got because nobody can figure out who called the meeting.
The mayor, of course, is not there. But
that's a good point. Good point.
And neither is the sheriff.
Yeah.
The sheriff isn't there. Or was he? Was Stucky there?
Yeah, Stucky was there. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I would say here about the mayor here is he might be somebody who lets the Klan do what they do because it keeps everything kind of like status quo.
Keeps him elected.
Keeps him in power.
Well, it keeps him in power and stuff like that, but also he wants his town to be a certain way.
Guarantees that things don't change.
And he allows the Klan to do what what they
White
do.
White culture and colored culture.
But he doesn't give them straight orders because he's kind of like the sheriff in that way, where he's like he's not going to be put at the scene, right? He's not the one that's going to get in trouble. It's kind of interesting if he did get castrated, if he didn't commit suicide.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. Yeah.
What would have been would he have been sentenced? Would he have gone to jail?
Not if Stucky didn't go to jail. Stuckey had an alibi. That's why he didn't go to jail. Because he was playing poker. There was people that could testify in his behalf in that case.
Yeah, he lost $11 or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
In
a lot of money.
1963,
That's good money.
It's some good money, but especially Mississippi.
Sure.
I love the fact they get the special agent that comes in and threatens him with the razor blade. That's probably the best part of the whole movie, right?
One of them.
It's one of them.
Special agent,
And, you know, that story he tells is probably a true story. I mean,
it's awesome.
Well, yes, exactly. He's great, and he's very intimidating.
Very intimidating, yes.
I wonder if that would have been Samuel L. Jackson, because I wonder how Samuel L. Jackson would have been.
It had to be.
That would have been a great role for him, huh?
It would have been.
Yeah.
Especially modern day Sam Jackson.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
This actor does a great job with it. I mean, I don't know how much more Samuel L. Jackson could have brought to it, because I just love his matter of fact.
If he'd have come in as Jules. 26:17, the path of the righteous.
Yes.
I don't need an over a top. I don't need the over a top one. I like the subtle, just basically telling the story.
I mean, it's
just like this.
Essentially, the story he tells is no different than what happened to Emmett Till.
Yeah.
Supposedly, Emmett Till whistled at a white girl, at a white woman, and well, his mom made sure that the public saw what happened to him.
Yes. Open casket, right?
Open casket in Chicago.
Yeah.
You know? One last thing. Did you ever hear the NAACP referred to as Stuckey refers to him?
No, never. You? Yes?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
Nope. Stuckey, man, I'll tell you.
He's a character.
He is a character. All right, let's talk about sticking the landing. So Anderson and Ward concoct a plan, luring identified Klan collaborators to a bogus meeting. But the men soon realize that they have been set up, and they leave the bogus meeting without discussing the murders. The FBI then concentrates on Lester Cowens, a Klansman of interest who exhibits a nervous demeanor when the agents believe might yield a confession. Yeah, right. The feds pick him up and interrogate him. Anderson stages a tussle with Pell at the local barbershop in retaliation for the attack on his wife and takes off. Later, Cowens is at home when a shotgun blast shatters his window. After seeing a burning cross on his lawn, he attempts to flee in his truck, but is caught by several hooded men who intend to hang him. The team arrives to rescue him, having staged the entire scene where the hooded men are revealed to be other FBI agents. Cowens, believing that his redneck brothers have threatened his life because of his admissions to the FBI, finally incriminates his accomplices. The Klansmen are charged with civil rights violations. Most of the perpetrators are convicted and are sentenced to 3 to 10 years imprisonment, while Sheriff Stuckey is acquitted. The FBI later finds Tillman has hanged himself, and Bird wonders why. Ward tells him Tillman was guilty for being a witness. Miss Pell returns to her home, which has been completely ransacked by vandals. She resolves to stay and rebuild her life. Before they leave town, Anderson and Ward visit an integrated congregation gathered at an African-American cemetery where the black civil rights activist desecrated gravestone reads, "Not forgotten." It's a lot there.
One thing we didn't touch on, the court case with the judge. That is so real. I mean, that is the guys who killed Medgar Evers.
Southern justice at its finest, right?
Southern justice at its finest, man. That judge is probably Klan.
Probably.
The whole speech that the political meeting that they're having, that where Clayton Townley's basically giving a Klan speech. I mean, it's real.
It's a good scene. It's well done. Really well done.
Perfect. And Stephen Tobolowsky, who plays Bowers, he's Jewish.
Yeah, I know. I know, right.
And they actually had Klan guys, like some of the people who were the extras in that scene.
Yeah.
Were actual Klan members.
Well, that's good.
And Tobolowsky actually said how uncomfortable he felt being a Jewish man.
I bet.
Talking to a bunch of actual Klan members.
That's acting, right? That's acting. Yeah.
They're looking at license plates, and they're taking down all the license plates numbers of all these people. I wish that would have paid off in some way later on in the film. It doesn't. It's almost kind of a throwaway thing that they're doing. At least to me, it feels that way.
Standard FBI protocol. Yeah.
It's reminiscent of The Godfather.
But I would have loved to have seen it pay off later on. Like, we had this person and this person at this rally, and so they maybe talked to them or something like that, and something came out that maybe caused, instead of focusing it on like the wife. And I think it's interesting that the wife doesn't have a name.
Right, she's just Mrs. Powell.
That's a good point. You're right. She doesn't have a name.
She doesn't have a name throughout the whole film. I mean,
You're
he doesn't
right.
even Anderson doesn't call her by her name throughout the
You're
whole
right.
movie.
I never really thought about that. Politeness. Yeah. I was just thinking Southern politeness.
Now that we got this ending here, we kind of can do everything that we need to do because this movie has so much in it, and we're skipping so much because there's so much here. And I would tell you, when I watched this movie, I'm like, man, this movie is a very long movie. It just felt long. But I feel like the ending has been hurried.
You're absolutely right on that. I felt the movie is so, I didn't think it was too long. I thought it was phenomenal, but I did think that the ending was hurried. They could have done a lot more, maybe tack on another 15, 20 minutes. I don't think it would have really hurt. The ending was hurried.
I think that's a product of the times where
they just try to wrap everything up in a nice bow.
They didn't want movies to go 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I think that's a restriction that the studios put on a lot of movies, that they wanted it to be just under or just over 2 hours.
But what I was saying is why I felt this movie felt long. It was at the point where I felt like now we're just getting into making them go against each other, right? Setting everything up. And all of a sudden it just kind of goes from one guy to the end. All of a sudden you're already getting to the sentencing. And I just felt like the movie felt long until then. And then it was like, it was done.
Yeah, it does. Once you have the scene with the mayor threatened to be castrated, it goes into overdrive a little bit. Everything starts to fall into place really fast on the Connect 4 board.
Maybe that's how it is in real life. Once one domino hits down, everything goes fast. But this is a powerful movie until this point, and then I feel like it loses some of its power because all we're getting is, we're going to show up here, and we're going to show you what his sentence is, and then we're going to show up at this person's business, and then we're going to show you what his sentence is, and we're going to show up at it's just so fast. It ends. What
does end up kind of being lost are the three boys who died. They turned into almost a MacGuffin because you have the lynching scene where, you actually see the guy get lynched and his farm burned down.
And he dies. He isn't dead right dead. There. I like dead. That's a moving scene there with his son holding him and telling him that he's going to be okay, right?
Yeah,
that's horrible.
And then you have the church where the black boy that was killed with the other two white boys. It's a great speech. I'm tired.
Yes, exactly.
The tired speech, and it's so strong,
very powerful.
And I feel like that's the last powerful thing we get to see here.
Yeah,
is that
there was a lot. It was so powerful.
Yeah, you see them walking behind the hearse, and the cops are all there, and they're just with their shit-eating grins on their face. But I think the most powerful part of that speech is where Frankie Faison says, "I'm supposed to tell you about the two white boys, but the state of Mississippi won't let them be buried in the same cemetery as this black boy."
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's as powerful as it comes. And it's the truth.
It's the truth, but probably those white boys probably would not have been buried in Mississippi.
No, they would have been sent. Yeah, they were sent back to where they lived in New York. You never know. Some of the activists did want to be buried there that died. But yeah, it's powerful. It's hard. It's hard to watch. But I agree that it's a little rushed here at the end. I would have liked to have seen Michael Rooker's character get his comeuppance.
I know, right? Oh, my goodness.
I think that's what we missed the most here, is because he's the one that's kind of like the most vile. out of everybody, it seems
Yeah.
like, right?
He has
Him
no
and Pell.
conscience at all. He is
He
evil.
and Pell.
No
Yeah.
redeeming qualities whatsoever. He seems like he's always mad at the world for
Yep.
something, right?
Yep.
And kind of want just something other than Gene Hackman showing up with a grin on his face, and that's it.
And twirling the handcuffs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
On his fingers. Yeah.
That's kind of a cool thing. Because I'm thinking about throughout this whole movie up to this point is powerful. This is a very powerful movie. And I'm sitting here going, why did it take Gene Hackman having to die for me to come watch this movie?
It's because it's a hard watch, like I was talking about with you earlier. This, when I was done with this movie, I was like, wow, it's a hard watch. This isn't a go-to feel-good movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
It's a hard watch, and because it's a hard watch, a lot of times those type of movies are not the ones that first and foremost come to the center of your mind of a movie that you want to watch on a Saturday afternoon or something. A lot of these powerful movies like this, so I would say a one and done for some people, are like, for example,
Schindler's List.
Thank you. Yes, Schindler's List. I've seen it once. I can't watch it again.
Passion
it is
of Christ.
I've only seen that once too now, to say it. Yes, it's those type of movies, and this is, I think, up in that caliber of a one and done. It's such a powerful movie.
I've seen it a lot of times when I was younger. I mean, I would say it's probably in the teens easily. You know, the number of times I've seen this movie. Going back to the fact of how this movie ends, I'm very disappointed also with the deputy sheriff's wife and Anderson. Their scene at the end just seems very dull. It might be the right way to do it. I guess her house is like totally ransacked.
Yeah,
and
of course it is.
I would have liked to know how that came about. I'm alluding to like
the Klan. No,
I might think it might be even the black community could have possibly do it. It could have been people that are in the community that were against what they were doing to the black community. The reason why I didn't think it was the Klan was their own guy, their wizard.
Grand Cyclops actually is the head.
He's actually been sentenced to prison as well. I mean, there's a lot of Klan members that were sentenced to.
They're Hydra. They have many heads.
Unless they're doing it against her because she's the one that kind of went down, that this all went down. But then they should have just burned down her house like they do with everybody else's houses, right?
She's lucky they didn't.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she's lucky. Well, maybe she's would have been luckier if they did burn it down, because then she could have left. But she says, I have to stay.
And
I have to stay. It would be nice if the FBI would have said,
don't send me a postcard from Des Moines.
Yeah, right.
When they're talking, and she asked him if he's married, and he says that he was, and then he said, I guess my wife got tired of postcards from Des Moines or Miami.
All his travel.
I mean, I'm okay with them not being together.
Which makes me believe that they slept together.
I think they like each other. I think there's an attraction there. It doesn't mean they had to sleep with each other. I'm okay with them not being a couple at the end.
Yes.
I don't know. It just feels kind of a little flat at the end, because I like their relationship throughout the whole movie. I actually like her a lot. Actually, and she's a great actress. And this is one of her first great roles that she was in. Everything is sped up except for this one little thing that slows it down. Maybe that's why it didn't win Best Picture, because it just didn't fully stick the landing. I feel like it just missed the mark on the landing.
Rain Man's a tough competitor too.
The reason that they do that is because a lot of people are going to come away with a very bad taste in their mouth if you end it with just them being convicted, because of the complete lightness of the sentences. And you have to remember, these guys weren't charged with murder. They were charged with taking away the civil rights of these three boys. If you just end there, people are going to be like, well, what the hell? It's more Southern justice. And you get to see the fallout of what happened after all of this went down.
You know how they changed that, though, is, like you stated earlier, the one guy that got sentenced in 88 or
66. Or he went to prison in 66, but then in 1996 he was convicted of murder.
Right. Maybe, and then since we're playing with the truth a little bit in this movie, right, we were talking about 60-40 possibly, maybe have one of those that said died in prison. If you have one of those that died in prison, it almost feels like there was some type of justice that was done. I mean, 10 years is a lot of time, but it's not what we feel these guys deserved, right? So if you gave one of these guys, I mean, you had the suicide. And the suicide kind of helps that out a little
good.
bit.
It's a winner.
But it's a cop-out, too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I committed suicide because,
And he probably figured he was going to get strung up,
stripped of his mayor powers. He would not be in anything anymore.
Or the FBI gets him on something else, corruption charges, things like that. I mean, his life is over as a mayor.
Clearly,
essentially,
it's done.
But he might as well have had his ball slit earlier in that scene.
Nice.
That's what I'm thinking here is, okay, you branded everybody as us out because you didn't want to be castrated.
Yeah.
But you committed suicide. Yeah. He was the one that I kind of wish that didn't commit suicide. I wish it would have been one of the other guys on the list. They show a few of these people that get sentenced. Barely we've seen them in the movie at all. Yeah. Like it's like a token.
Yeah, there is a couple of them. Yeah, it's a little. The big fat guy is one of them.
I was like, I didn't even know you were in the movie until I saw you at the end.
Yeah, he's at that little meeting at that church.
Yeah.
That kind of goes to the whole thing of the 17 people were actually tried. The thing that sucks, though, if you're talking about sentencing, these guys in federal prisons, no picnic, but they didn't serve time in a Mississippi jail. Serving time in a Mississippi jail is completely different than serving time in federal prison. Would you rather go to Leavenworth, or would you rather go to Louisiana or Mississippi to serve your time?
Were they segregated prisons, I guess? I don't know.
That's a good question.
To answer your question, federal. And that's an interesting...
I wouldn't want to be.
I think that was a smart move, obviously, especially with the movie portraying that and pushing that forward, was trying these guys for civil rights violations of federal crime versus trying to get murder in Mississippi. Absolutely.
Because we already showed that they're not...
It didn't work.
It ain't going to work. That's right.
There's a lot of things that this movie does right, and those are the things that it does right.
Yeah.
If the guys who killed Medgar Evers got off with murder, there's no way these guys would have been convicted of murder in Mississippi.
Murder in Mississippi.
Murder in the Ghost of Mississippi. Have you seen that movie with...
Yeah.
That's about the murder of Medgar Evers.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. So at the end of this movie, we do have the cemetery scene, and they focus on the gravestone. There is not forgotten. To be honest with you, I didn't know until I read that was the Black civil rights activist, because it was so soon after his funeral that I realized.
It'd be interesting to know if there's some sort of protection around his gravestone even today.
Oh, I'm sure there has. I would be surprised if there wasn't.
I would like, since you had a funeral for him just 5 minutes before this, basically, that you would have shown the headstone in its full.
Yeah.
And then showed that it was broken later on as retaliation from the Klan again, right?
Or, I mean, they had the opportunity. They could have shot B-roll of the real life.
Yeah, you're right. They could have. Yeah.
Three headstones.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure Goodman and Schwarmer's headstones are still available. They could have shot B-roll at least of that and shown the real life headstones, and to bring it back to reality, because we saw at the very beginning the colored white water fountains.
Yes.
I think that would have been a little bit more of a powerful.
And they do have him in a beautiful cemetery, though, at the end. It is a beautiful looking cemetery.
Of course. If you look way, way in the distance, you do see one of the Civil War monuments in that cemetery.
Well, I think it's time for us to go to our reviews. What do you guys think?
Let's do it. Ted, kick us off.
This is a tough movie, man.
Well, yes.
This is a movie, though, that I watch probably at least once a year. It's hard because, as somebody who grew up in Southern Illinois, right by Missouri, I've always felt like I had to atone a little bit. And so I remind myself that this is real, because it's still there. And so it's a hard watch, but I like this movie a lot. I think it's wonderfully cast. I think you have some great performances. I think Brad Dourif plays an amazing Quentin Pell. And I think, like I said, Michael Rooker is amazing. Actually made me hate him in a lot of things for a long time.
Got him typecast, huh?
Yeah, because I recognized him in Days of Thunder, and I really hated him in there too because
Mallrats, yes.
He's typecast with Mallrats, right?
Because he starred in this movie, and it's and I like Arlie Ermy. I think his part is very small, but you still get that gunnery sergeant coming out of him from Full Metal Jacket. But Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe, they're brilliant. More Hackman than Dafoe, in my opinion. I think Dafoe kind of plays it a little bit more wooden. I would have liked to have seen more of the Platoon Willem Dafoe, him play it this way. But, I mean, you can't argue with the cast. My biggest complaint with this movie, and I really didn't bring it up, is the music. Because I think a lot of the scenes are powerful enough that you didn't need 1980s because it's something bad's going to happen. I mean, you really didn't need it. Although I do love the gospel music. It's always something that's had a place in my heart is gospel music. I think it's wonderful. This movie is a 4.5 for me. It's not a full 5 because of the music, and because it does get on my nerves a little bit.
The music brings it down. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit, because I think that it's the scenes are powerful enough without that ominous music playing in the background. But yeah, it's definitely a snapshot of that time, but we aren't so far removed from that time that we want to think we are. And I actually like it better than Rain Man.
I agree with you. I like it better than Rain Man too.
Yeah, it's a better movie than Rain Man.
I do. All right. Well, for me, well, I'll tell you, I haven't seen this movie in quite a few years. And the last time I watched this movie, oh boy, I was definitely watching it. I don't want to say with a different set of eyes, but I wasn't really watching it for the detail of the acting and I wouldn't say the plot, but the details of the acting and the cinematography and everything that went into play. And actually, I didn't think the music was half that bad. I mean, it's definitely of the era, but I think it fit okay. I love this movie. It's such a powerful movie. It's not one of these movies that I'm going to go and watch every year. There's no time, honestly. And God, I don't want to say it's a downer, but it's a tough watch. But it was an incredible watch. I'm really, really glad we did this movie. I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you've seen it. I hope you have. If you haven't, go out and watch it. It's not Five Hooks. Five Hooks is a pretty flawless movie. This has got a few little things in it that probably could have been tweaked. Ken, you brought up that great point about the ending. I thought the ending was rushed. I think we could have tacked on 15, 20 more minutes and really made this thing a five hook movie with just an incredible ending. But I agree with you, Ted. 4.5 hooks for me all the way. What do you got, Ken? Take us home.
Well, one thing that we didn't talk about in this movie that I'm going to bring up real quick for my review here is because Ted was talking about William Dafoe's performance, and one of my favorite parts of this movie with William Dafoe and Gene Hackman is the fight scene when they're fighting against each other, and William Dafoe pulls a gun on him, and Dunn later is like, Hackman's like, he would have shot me, would he? And he's like, yeah. So I thought that was a great scene there. Mm-hmm. It's probably my favorite scene out. Maybe that or the kidnapping scene when he was going to threaten to cut his balls off. The performances here are awesome. The guy who plays the sheriff does a great job. Everybody is on their A game. People who are normally like the guy that plays the sheriff. He's more in comedy roles. The guy who plays the Grand Wizard, he's more of in comedy roles. I mean, but these guys are bringing their A game to a serious film. When I was going through this film, like about 2/3 into the movie, I'm saying, how can I not give this movie 5 hooks? This is a type of a 5 hook type of movie because it's so powerful. And the imaging and just, I don't have a problem with the score. I think the score actually helps it out a little bit, but I can understand some people just, get annoyed by certain It's not like The Firm where we get
Dear God in heaven, Jesus.
It's not The Firm in that aspect. But I was really enjoying this film, and like I said earlier, I was like, this seems like this movie could feel like a 3-hour movie. It can be based on where I'm at here 2/3 in, and then just the last bit of it was just a little short, and was a little disappointing. Like I said, maybe we could have had one of the guys die. Maybe there was a chase. Maybe the one character that we were talking about does a O.J. Simpson thing, and we gets in a Ford Bronco and starts going somewhere.
Lester, you need to change your pants.
Wow,
that's a great line too.
Yeah.
I was thinking about using that line. There's some great lines here by Gene Hackman. He's got some really great lines in this movie. As far as where I'm putting it on the hook meter, we're going to be all in agreement again here. It's a 4.5. I wanted to give a little bit higher, but just because of the ending, I'm going to pull back a little bit. But this is a movie that I'm going to come back to. I wouldn't say like this year maybe, but in my lifetime, I have to come back to this movie because I think it's that good.
Oh,
It's
of course.
It's better than Rain Man. Does it deserve an Oscar for Best Picture? Maybe not, but also it's a great film, and everybody should at least watch this once because I think it's in the spirit of everything that happened. Because usually I downgrade for accuracy.
Know your history.
I'm not doing it this time. The downgrade is just for the ending.
You did make an interesting point. I don't know. There's something more terrifying when a comedic actor plays somebody evil. I think
Are you talking Steven Tobolowsky?
Yeah, and the guy who played Stucky.
Yeah.
Even though Stucky kind of comes off as a jokey kind of haha guy, he's not.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's something about that. I think that's, and if we ever do like Robin Williams, there's some roles that Robin Williams did that he was really good in because he was such a comedy guy, but he played that crazy guy.
Yeah.
And it's
1 Hour Photo.
Yeah.
1 Hour Photo, Insomnia.
Yeah. Popeye.
Death to Smoochie.
Oh, I love Death to Smoochie. Yes.
Yeah. We're the only ones, Eric.
Yes, I know.
No, I don't think so.
Ones.
I love Death to Smoochie myself.
I did too. It's all Smoochie Heil, Smoochie Heil.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Ken, you're right. There's something about that comedic actor that does something like that. It's more off-putting to me.
All right. 4.5 stars across the board. How about that? Nice.
How about that?
All right, Ken, what's our next movie? Hopefully we're going to be a little bit more upbeat than this one. Are we doing Schindler's List?
The next movie we're going to do, and
Sophie's Choice.
We were going to do this movie, but we were sticking a Gene Hackman movie in between. We've actually already recorded this. We're going to do the movie Saturday Night, which just came out last year on Netflix, in the theaters. You can watch it now on Netflix. We've already recorded it, but we want to get this Gene Hackman movie out because we want to just honor a man that we feel is one of the best actors that we've ever seen.
Great. All right. Well, again, thank you for listening to the Hooked on Movies podcast. And as always, ET phone home.
See you at the movies.
See you next time on Hooked on Movies.